Hello everyone, welcome to CNA, the daily newspaper analysis. So today we are back with a bunch of topics to discuss. But before starting, I just want to convey an information that we have come up with various number of programs as well as with various number of offers. We are being going ahead with the Diwali sale, so where you will get some of the greatest offers which through which you can directly buy some of our products and can boost your preparation for your upcoming exams. So you can also join the WhatsApp group of us as well as the Telegram group with the link given in the description box. So do follow us for the latest updates as well as also for some of the free study materials. So now let's start with today's discussion. The first topic says about Section 66A, that is about the Information and Technology Act, that is the IT Act of 2000. So we could see that recently the Supreme Court has ordered the states and their police forces to stop prosecuting free speech on social media under Section 66A of the IT Act, which was declared unconstitutional by the court in a judgment 7 years ago from today. So what is this Section 66A? So this introduced in 2008, the amendment to the IT Act of 2000 gave the government some of the powers to arrest and imprison an individual for allegedly offensive and menacing online post and was passed without discussion in the parliament. तो ये closure कर दिया गया था through some form of closure motions. तो this section 66A जो लाया गया था 2008 के द्वारा amendment के द्वारा, so it empowers the police to make arrest over what policemen in terms of their subjective discretion could construe as offensive or menacing. So it prescribed the punishment for sending messages through a computer or any other communication devices. By the time of 2015, the Apex Court, that is our Supreme Court, struck down this law in the landmark case of Shreya Singhal. ये बहुत important case है, याद रखना. Shreya Singhal versus Union of India. तो इस केस में सेक्शन 66A को स्ट्रक डाउन कर दिया गया है, calling it an open-ended and unconstitutionally vague and thus expanded the contours of free speech to internet. So during this period of time, ये केस क्यों आया गया था? Why is this 66A was heavily criticized by the people? So the problem was with the vagueness about what is offensive. Offensive क्या होता है वो अच्छे से यहाँ पर डिफिनेशन नहीं दिया गया था. ऑफेंसिव जो भी पुलिस टैकल करता है, जो भी पुलिस के हिसाब से होता है, वही ऑफेंसिव यहाँ पे बोला गया. यहाँ पे क्लियर एक्सप्लेनेशन नहीं था. So therefore the word having a very wide connotation was open to distinctive varied interpretations, and it was seen as subjective, and what might have been innocuous for one person could lead to a complaint from someone else, and consequently we can see an arrest happening arbitrarily. कोई भी उठा के लेके आते, कोई भी कुछ भी बोल देता है थ्रू एनी सम नंबर ऑफ, इट कैन बी कैटेगराइज्ड एज ऑफेंसिव, क्योंकि इस एक्ट के द्वारा बोला नहीं गया है कि ऑफेंसिव क्या है. So it is on the very purview of the police department, police personnel who is directly arresting such number of persons very much arbitrarily. So now when we can see about in 2015, तो ये court case scrutiny में आया कैसे? See, the first petition directly came up in the court following the arrest of 2 girls in Maharashtra by the Thane police. That was in November 2012 over a Facebook post. This girls has made comments on the shutdown of Mumbai for the funeral of a political leader. And this arrest of these 2 girls triggered outrage from all quarters over the manner in which the cyber law was used by our forces. So the petition was filed by a girl amongst them, that is Shreya Singhal, who was a 20-year-old law student. And what was the grounds for this challenge? So the objective behind the 2008 amendment was to prevent the misuse of the IT Act, particularly through social media. But the petitioners directly argued the section 66A came with extremely wide parameters, which allowed some of the interpretations by law enforcement agencies. And most of these agencies used these sections not specifically defined under the Act. So therefore, the law was potentially to gag legitimate free speech online and to curtail freedom of speech and expression, and to put some of the reasonable restrictions on that respective freedom. So now what did the Supreme Court decided? See, in March 2015, a bench of justice at that point of time, led by Justice Chilameshwar and also Nariman, they ruled in Shreya Singhal versus Union of India, declared that this is very violative of Article 19, Clause 1A. So therefore, they said that this Article 19(1)(a) gives people the right to speech and expression, whereas Article 19, Clause 2 accords the state the power to impose reasonable restrictions. So this decision was considered as a landmark judicial pushback against state encroachment on freedom of speech and expression. So therefore, today, if you see about this section, which was removed by the Supreme Court, तो यहाँ पे अभी सुप्रीम कोर्ट के द्वारा बोला गया है स्टेज के ऊपर कि आप लोग का जो पुलिस फोर्सेस है इन लोग को स्टॉप करना चाहिए प्रोसिक्यूटिंग फ्री स्पीच ऑन सोशल मीडिया अंडर सेक्शन 66A, क्योंकि आज भी वी कैन सी दैट सच थिंग्स आर प्योरली गेटिंग इंप्लीमेंटेड इन सम ऑफ द रेस्पेक्टिव स्टेट्स. ठीक है, तो ये था अबाउट सेक्शन 66A ऑफ द आईटी एक्ट 2000, which was introduced by an amendment in 2008 and was repealed by the Apex Code around 2015 in the Shreya Singhal versus Union of India case. Okay, चलो नेक्स्ट पे आते हैं. Places of Worship Act. तो यहाँ पे क्या बोला गया है about the Supreme Court directed the center to make its stand clear on whether the constitutional bench in Ram Janmabhoomi case has already settled the question of validity of the Places of Worship Act. तो ये जो राम जन्मभूमि वाला केस है ये हम लोग को सबको पता है. This was a directly dispute about the Ram Janmabhoomi versus the Babri Masjid dispute, which has been accompanied by a sense of apprehensions. And this dispute has been historically charged, politically divisive, and communally violent, putting both the nation and the constitution at risk. So this was directly referred back then by a 5-judge constitutional bench, which referred the dispute case for meditation in the eyes of the CJI. And the case is not about property, but about the mind, heart, and healing, if possible. तो अभी यहाँ पे क्या बोल रहा है, यहाँ पे जो प्लेसेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट है हम लोग का, ठीक है, तो थोड़े दिन के पहले भी हम लोग का एक प्राइवेट मेंबर्स बिल आया था टू रिपील दिस एक्ट ऑफ 1991 व्हिच वाज इंट्रोड्यूस्ड इन राज्यसभा. तो प्राइवेट मेंबर बिल कौन से बोलते हैं, जो पब्लिक के नहीं होते, जो गवर्नमेंट के नहीं होते, उनके प्राइवेट मेंबर्स बिल बोलते हैं उनको. तो दिस प्लेसेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट ऑफ 1991 व्हिच वाज पास्ड इन 1991 बाय पार्लियामेंट ड्यूरिंग द राम जन्मभूमि मूवमेंट, एंड दिस एक्ट वाज इंट्रोड्यूस्ड टू प्रमोट पीस, हार्मनी एंड ब्रदरहुड. And the main objective of the act is to maintain the religious character of any such places as existence on the 15th day of August of 1947. So this act directly prohibits conversions of any place of worship or changing the religious character of any place from its status at the time of independence. So the main purpose behind the act was to check and control the communal hatred and promote peace and harmony in the country. So this 1991 Act covered all dispute sites to which religious groups has raised a claim, except the site of the Ram Janmabhoomi Babri case was excluded from this provision of the Act. So today, when India is, we can see about India being a constitutional democracy, जो एक टाइम में नहीं था, before 15 August 1947, we cannot see India going for a constitutional democracy. And there was no rule of law during even the medieval period, British period, when a temple was allegedly destroyed. So, but today we live in a modern democracy with constitutional values and follow the rule of law. So even we could see about the court stating that the state has constitutional commitment and constitutional obligations to uphold the equality of all religions. Therefore, the court concluded saying that the Place of Worship Act 1981 is necessary for upholding our commitment to secularism under Indian Constitution. तो उसी के बेसिस पे यहाँ पे सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने सेंटर को यहाँ पे बोला है कि आप लोग अपना स्टेट क्लियर कीजिए कि आप लोग को इस प्लेसेस ऑफ वर्शिप एक्ट के तहत आप लोग को जाना है या नहीं, आप लोग रिपील करेंगे या नहीं. तो ऑल दिस सेक्शंस are being reviewed today by the Supreme Court, and it has been put forward at a respective question with the government so that they could directly go forward with this act or not. ठीक है, तो ये एक छोटा सा इशू था about this Place of Worship Act of 1981. तो ये देख लेते थोड़ा बहुत. नेक्स्ट, आर्मी रोड मैप टू इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स. तो अभी क्या चल रहा है, इन अ वेरी टर्मिनोलॉजी सेइंग अबाउट ऑफ गोइंग फॉर अ पुश, दैट इज द ग्रीन पुश. Today, the Indian Army is directly going up with some of the electric vehicle plans for some of the cars, bikes, buses, and all such number of vehicles which has been plied under the Indian Army. So this EV push will see the Indian Army replaces around 25% of light vehicles, 38% of buses and 48% of motorcycles. तो ये रिप्लेस करेंगे किन चीजों को? इन चीजों. And a tender for buying 60 buses along with 24 fast chargers for the Indian Army is expected to be floating soon. तो ये भी एक न्यूज में है, क्योंकि आज we could see about the Indian Army plans to induct such electric vehicles wherever possible to reduce the carbon emissions and also considering about the operational commitments of the country. Because when you are going in for electric vehicles, then also the factors unique to Army's employability and all such things could be easily taken down. So this EV push has already been started in New Delhi and is expected to extend until Lucknow, Pune, Kolkata. And today the army is directly setting up various number of infrastructures to even support these EV vehicles. So this existing deficiency of the buses can be met with such number of procurations of the electric buses. And the army will progressively induct such number of EV vehicles with a pace so as to adopt some of the efforts to reduce dependence on the non-renewable sources of energy, being the fossil fuels. So the government's policy of the faster adoption and manufacturing of the hybrid vehicles, जो हम लोग बोलते हैं FAME scheme, तो आज FAME 2 चल रहा है. So this in alignment with the FAME scheme, the Indian Army wants to boost the infrastructure development for sustaining the electronic vehicles ecosystem in the country, and thereby making a society which can address a good amount of climate change happening in the environment today. Because today, if you see about the electric vehicles who fleet powered by renewable energy can moderately transfer the carbon emissions to some number of good environmental friendly emissions. So in this sector, today the Indian Army is directly going up with the respective government so that it could make the commitment in association with the changing in the temperature, with the changing in the climate today, what we are encountering in the nearby sectors. So these are the things today the Indian Army is very much focused towards the electronic vehicles, and slowly this will take the whole country as a whole. क्योंकि आज हम लोग जहां मेजर थोड़ा लोकेशंस है पूरा वहां पे हम लोग डायरेक्टली ये इलेक्ट्रिक व्हीकल्स आर्मी पुट अप फॉरवर्ड कर रहे हैं. तो थोड़े दिन के बाद we can see the whole country directly coming under the ambit of the electric vehicles, and which will directly assign themselves with the commitment of not changing the Earth's temperature more than 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius. ठीक है, तो ये हम लोग का गोल है, and even the Indian Army is directly supporting the goal of the government of India. चलो ठीक है, नेक्स्ट पे आते हैं. असम डिजास्टर रिस्क रिडक्शन मैप. तो यहाँ पे असम कैबिनेट ने बोला है कि लाइक टू सेपरेट एलोकेशंस ऑफ 3% ऑफ द एनुअल बजट ऑफ ईच डिपार्टमेंट फॉर डिजास्टर. तो ईच डिपार्टमेंट से हम लोग का 3% एक जाएगा कहाँ पे? डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट. क्योंकि हम लोग को असम में पता है हर टाइम असम फ्लड से गुजरती है. ठीक है, सो असम इज वेरी मच प्रोन टू सच नंबर ऑफ फ्लड सिचुएशंस एवरी ईयर. ओके, सो टुडे यू कैन इवन सी दैट इन द रिसेंट टाइम्स तो डैमेज हुआ है. सपोजली आज अगर मैं 33 डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स को ही मान लो, अगर ठीक है, अगर न्यू डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स को ऐड ना करो तो 33 डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स जो मेजर डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स है उनको ही मान लो अगर, चलो तो वी कैन सी दैट आउट ऑफ 33 डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स अराउंड 27 डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स today in this time period of 2022 was affected by the floods, and many number of villages are currently inundated with various number of crops getting lost. And we can see about even the state disaster management authority has so far claimed that there is loss of lives amounting to hundreds and hundreds of people. Also the Kaziranga National Park, where many animals died, many animals have been rescued. So therefore today such number of problems which is underlying Assam because of the river Brahmaputra, okay, is basically rising everywhere. Because today we know about the various regions associated with the recurrent floods in Assam. Climatic conditions एक है, क्लाइमेटिक कंडीशंस तो ऑब्वियसली रहेगा क्योंकि क्लाइमेटिक कंडीशन से बारिश आता है, बारिश से क्या होता है? फ्लडिंग्स होता है. वाइड स्प्रेड झूम कल्टीवेशन प्रैक्टिस, बिकॉज ये जो ट्रेडिशनल स्लैश एंड बर्न कल्टीवेशन है इन हिली एरियाज इज वेरी मच प्रिवेलेंट in this state, which burns the vegetation, removes the upper protective layer of the soil from the land, making it prone to erosion by the rain. इसके बाद लार्ज सिल्ट डिपॉजिट इन द फ्लड प्लेन, ये भी एक बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट इश्यूज है. फिर जो क्लाइमेट चेंज है, because of the climate change, rising temperatures cause increased rainfalls and flash floods होता है उसके लिए. And heavy rain has decreased the water carrying capacity of the Brahmaputra river and its tributaries. फिर जो wetlands है उसमें encroachment चल रहा है, increasing population in the state has resulted in a farming activity and construction in the wetlands. Dams built on Brahmaputra river and its tributaries, which cannot sustain the hydrostatic pressure. For the nature of the river Brahmaputra, because the tendency of the river Brahmaputra of changing its course frequently and river having a large number of tributaries is also one of the regions. Also, failure of the desilting programs, क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट में यहाँ पे जो डिसिल्टिंग का प्रोग्राम्स लगाया था वो टोटली टेम्पररी है और वो बहुत एक्सपेंसिव है, गवर्नमेंट उसको अफोर्ड नहीं कर पाती. So therefore today we have got various problems associated with this disaster. So the best way forward today is the role of technological things. अगर dredging भी करें हम लोग टेक्नोलॉजी का यूज करना चाहिए, creating artificial intelligence, artificial embankments, so as to restore existing ones which have become ineffective. So this floodplain zoning, then reconsidering the prone areas, very much prone towards the flooding areas, social infrastructures, encouraging vegetation in the wetlands that is nearby to the river banks can act as buffers, conserving the wetlands. ये सब बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है आज के लिए हम लोग के लिए. तो यहाँ पे वही चीज के लिए to manage such number of disaster risks, we can see about that Assam cabinet ने यहाँ पे अप्रूवल दे दिया है about a 3% annual budget of each department for disaster. तो ये यहाँ पे एक छोटा सा न्यूज है अबाउट असम डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट. ठीक है, तो लास्टली आते हैं हम लोग का चाइनास वल्फ वॉरियर एरा के साथ. तो ये जो वल्फ वॉरियर वाला कंसेप्ट है ना, तो वी कुड सी दैट ये जनरली बोलता है अबाउट द चाइनीज एग्रेसिव पॉलिसीज अबाउट और चाइनीज assertive new diplomatic approach of Xi Jinping to be dubbed as this Wolf Warrior diplomacy era. तो ये क्या है? This Wolf Warrior diplomacy, named after famous Chinese movies describing offensives by Chinese diplomat to defend China's national interest, often in confrontational rhetorics. तो ये बोला गया है कि like it reinforces a pre-assumed transition of the Chinese diplomacy from conservative, passive, and low-key to assertive, proactive, and high-profile. So today, if you see about जैसे wolf होता है, wolf बहुत aggressive होता है, तो आज कहीं पे भी चाइना को कहीं पे किसी एक रीजन के लिए टोक दो तो चाइना इमीडिएटली रिस्पॉन्ड करता है. हम लोग के इंडिया की तरह नहीं कि थोड़े दिन के बाद रिप्लाई करेंगे. नो, तो चाइना इमीडिएटली रिस्पॉन्ड्स टू सच नंबर ऑफ एक्टिविटीज, टू सच नंबर ऑफ टॉकिंग्स which has been delivered or which has been criticized by some of the other country. तो ये होता है क्योंकि वुल्फ के सामने अगर कोई पड़ जाए तो वो डायरेक्टली क्या करेंगे? एग्रेसिवली अटैक करेंगे. तो इसी को चाइनीज शी जिनपिंग जी का वुल्फ वॉरियर एरा बोला. Because you can see in the recent 1 year, the Chinese Foreign Ministry has taken an increasingly strident tone against the United States, India, Australia, and various other countries. In April last year only, Chinese Coast Guard ship allegedly sank a Vietnamese fishing trawler. तो ये क्या है? Aggressiveness है. Then China announced the naming of 80 islands, reefs, seamounts, shoals, and ridges in the South China Sea, which triggered angry protests from other claimants. Also, China tried to enter India at various places, be it the Doklam issue, okay, be it the areas of Arunachal Pradesh, be it the Pangsong Lake wala incident. So here today, China is resorting to the Wolf Warrior diplomacy through soaring nationalism. Also, China being a great power is directly coming towards India, coming towards the respective country. क्योंकि आज चाइना को देख लो, चाइना का किसके साथ एक बॉर्डर डिस्प्यूट नहीं है. The countries which China directly borders, सबके साथ border dispute. So today, even China is going for various number of its initiatives, be it the Maritime Silk Road, be it the Belt and Road initiatives, which has consolidated its influence over the Indian neighbors as well as all the neighbors, which includes in the Chinese premises. तो अगर मैं बोलूं कि how successful this approach of World Warrior era is for China. So see, the World Warrior diplomacy is already hurting China's foreign policy, since it has generated pushback such as Australia's call for an independent probe into the coronavirus origins. Even China's soft power is very weak globally, because a belligerent approach will further damage China's global image. Also, the World Warrior tactics, which is combined with great military assertiveness in the China-India border, has ended up pushing India much closer to US and alienating a billion person economy. तो आज चाइना के साथ हम लोग ट्रेड नहीं, व्हाई विद इंडिया चाइना डज नॉट हैव गॉट अ फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट? क्योंकि हम लोग को पता है कि आज हम लोग डायरेक्टली एक फिस्कल डेफिसिट मेंटेन कर रहे हैं चाइना के साथ, क्योंकि हम लोग इंपोर्ट ज्यादा कर रहे हैं और एक्सपोर्ट कम कर रहे हैं, बिकॉज चाइना इज सेल्फ सफिशिएंट इन ऑल सच नंबर ऑफ मैन्युफैक्चरिंग फैसिलिटीज. So today, this approach is slowly directly in its last stage. तो ये जो अप्रोच है चाइनीज का वर्ल्ड 4 year अप्रोच, which is basically the aggressive strategy of China, which is basically the Chinese going describing some of the offensiveness to defend their respective national interest, which often leaves them in some of the confrontational space. और ये जो confrontations है ये उन लोग को अभी बहुत भारी पड़ रहा है, बिकॉज टुडे इवन रिसेंटली जो नैन्सी पेलोसी आए थे इन ताइवान, उसमें जब चाइना बोले भी थे कि वहां पे आए तो हम लोग डायरेक्टली न्यूक्लियर छोड़ देंगे, मिसाइल छोड़ देंगे, कुछ कर देंगे, लेकिन क्या ही कर पाया? तो यहाँ पे वो लोग कुछ नहीं कर पाएंगे, बिकॉज चाइना टुडे डायरेक्टली फियर्स अबाउट एनकाउंटरिंग every other state, every other country today who are directly under the alliance, be it India, be it US, be it Australia, be it Japan, be it South Korea, सबके साथ एक साथ आ जाएंगे. So therefore, during these situations, we could see about China directly focusing in an era which was said to be a world 4 year era, and China now turns out, और China का अभी ये जो world 4 year era है इसको खत्म करने का टाइम आ गया है. Because अगर ये वर्ल्ड 4 year era खत्म नहीं करेंगे, then China will have to face a lot many number of problems coming in from the nearby countries as well as from the global flora. ठीक है, तो यही था about this China's world 4 year era. Okay, so you can see about some number of questions given, that is the MCQs. Please do attempt it in the comment sections. Also, you have got one mains question, so do attempt it, as well as do join our WhatsApp as well as Telegram group for the further updates and some of the latest offers. So that's all for today. You have got the MCQs of yesterday's. So that's all for today. Thank you and Jai Hind.